The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday morning show, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now, roll tide.
And Mark Kraynak.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Welcome to it, weekend editions here. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak, birthday man Elijah Herbal.
Hey, how old are you, Elijah? That's
22, which is like it's
20
like
what?
22.
Oh my God!
But it's like a lame birthday, the 22nd birthday.
There is somebody that is going to be popping out of a cake that is open to tips and cash later. Before the show
I quit
ends.
doing that. I quit doing that when I put on the 40 pounds. It doesn't.
No, this one's name is Cinnamon.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
Starting early this morning, Cinnamon.
Bring over bubbles. Hey, what's the bath without bubbles?
Hey. We all need a bath after this fiasco known as Nebraska-Oklahoma yesterday. For the love of sweet Lord.
I know.
There was a 7-hour window of
like shaking my keyboard yesterday.
Feeling like the greatest thing ever was taken away from you, and that is Nebraska-Oklahoma football. That you don't get the day after Thanksgiving anymore. You don't get every 2 years anymore. You get every so often, right? And the last time Nebraska played Oklahoma, 2010 Big 12 championship, just like the good Lord intended. Roy Halou goes off. Couple of bad decisions by Team Magic in the red zone. A 23-20 soul crusher. But that was then. You fast forward to 2012. Coach Osborne's able to knock out, take a phone call, and re-up and get Nebraska-Oklahoma on the board to celebrate the 50th anniversary for the game of the century. We're going to be down there. Thank God we're still going to be down there for it. Uncle Andy is going to take the RV down. We're going to go see Uncle Barry, and it's going to work out. Kraynak, I reached out to two guys that are Oklahoma football yesterday, and just a quick couple of text messages with Switzer, and check in with Dean Blevins, who, he's hosted the Lincoln Riley Show, hosted the Barry Switzer Show, hosted the Bob Stoops Show. So, Dean Blevins is Mr. OU football. And they both were kind of like, Chris, you've been drinking? They're just like, what? You've been drinking already? Yeah, it's like, hey, what's going on with this? What's the deal here? Is Nebraska trying to get out of Oklahoma and Nebraska? What are you guys hearing?
And so they hadn't even heard.
Blevins, I thought I heard something about that, but I didn't really pay too much attention to it. And then the Brett McMurphy tweet was like, oh, so we'll check in with Blevins on this whole situation Monday.
You got to be careful of getting Oklahoma disinformation. This reminds me of you checking in with the Kremlin in some ways. Just be careful.
Well, but no.
Careful.
Barry's first reaction was, first I'd heard of it, but you got to think there's financial implications behind this. Not only obviously the $1 million buyout, but where Barry was going was, our team's going to be looking at adding more home games. And, a few hours later, Barry was the first to raise his hand and said, look, bro, I got tested 1,000 times for COVID during this lockdown. He's 84 now, and he just, with this pandemic, was just super ultra cautious, right, with his health. And the first thing that came to his mind is the financial ramifications, and that's part of what you got with Bill Moose's statement saying, look, we did explore an 8th home game to try and mitigate and offset some financial issues that the university and the state and the great state of Nebraska and the city of Lincoln have felt with COVID. So that reasoning's not horrible. but you don't trade out Oklahoma
period
for Popsicle State. You just don't do it. And Moose is too smart of a football guy to do that. And my question is this. Did Moose act alone on this? And I can't think there's any way he would have. And I come back to Nebraska football. I look at Scott Frost, and where the hell's this team's confidence at? All well and good that you want to put more money in people's pocket, right? But when it comes to the opportunity of a Tier 1 game against your measuring stick opponent your entire football life, when it comes down
to a reason why you're even here, if you think about it.
Right. It was 1971. Devaney was kicking ass and taking names in the 60s and into the 70s. But you get
would Nebraska be Nebraska without Oklahoma?
Nebraska would not be Nebraska without the Game of the Century win that is still listed as a top 5 or top 10 college football game ever with 70 million viewers back in 1971. And you had the build-up, the promotion, the wow factor. People got hooked on college football because of the Game of the Century. People got hooked on Nebraska because they won. And Johnny Rogers tore them loose from their shoes. It was wow. And Nebraska, because of guys like Osborne and beyond, they've been good. They've been great. And part of that greatness was achieved by being able to vanquish Oklahoma, or at least be in the game against Oklahoma. And you can't look yourself in the mirror and have a backbone and say, 3.5 hour ass kicking that might happen on September 18th, that's going to hurt.
And it will.
Let's find a way out of that. Guess what? You got now a 6-month butt kicking that you're going to take publicly in the college football circles. Whenever football's brought up, whenever we get close, they tried to opt out. That's your scarlet letter moving forward. And it's horrific. It's inexcusable. It's embarrassing. And I feel sorry for Nebraska football this morning because the kids don't deserve that. They want to play in big games like this. The fans want games like this. And I hope, and I would go around the assistant coaches' offices, they want to get their kids ready for it. But, man, you've got a crisis of confidence, it feels like, going on right now. Quick, stupid radio guy knee-jerk reaction to yesterday, Kraynak.
You gotta live it, man. You have to live what you're preaching. And they have been preaching. They've been preaching.
They've been talking.
No fear of failure. We'll play anybody. We'll go to Uzbekistan. Play anyone, anytime. And then you have made moves all in the last few months that fly right in the frickin' face of that. And so, and that makes that breaks trust with the fan base, with the team, with everybody around it. So you say that you'll go anywhere, you'll play anyone, you'll play in Uzbekistan, doesn't matter. We just want to play ball. We just want to play ball. We just want to play ball. Then you don't go to a bowl game.
And you did a year ago. And you did a year ago. And you did a year ago, right? You were so right on point.
Yeah,
fighting to play ball.
You opt out of going to a bowl game. Mm-hmm. Now you have a chance. Here's the thing. When did it change to? And this isn't myopic. Oklahoma will be a prohibitive double-digit favorite.
They're going to kill a lot of people next year.
Some people think they're
they just are.
Yeah. So some folks think they are the title contender. Right?
Sure, could be.
They're a consensus top 5. You got Spencer Rattler coming back. You got all your receivers coming back. You got your defensive line coming back. You got to do a little plug and play on the offensive line. You got a COVID opt out returning at running back. They're going to be a juggernaut. They're going to be awesome. They're going to be good. And it used to be, not too long ago, that this program and this team would relish the opportunity to take on a team of that caliber and go show what it can do. That's what Nebraska was built on. Like, oh, yeah, you're top 5. You got all the high-profile athletes. Let's go. Right? And had that sort of defiance about it, that it would love to take on those kind of programs. Now you're trying to duck out? Like, what? And look, the whole idea of doing it for financial reasons, to give a boost to the economy, maybe to give a couple a little more scratch to the athletic department, noble as that is, look, there's something there. Okay, I'm not saying that's nothing, but there needs to be a 5-second rule at the university. There, and this goes back to I-Course and like the 5-second rule needs to be, okay, when you're sitting in the boardroom and the meeting agenda item comes up and it says, hey, how about we get rid of the Nebraska-Iowa game on Black Friday?
Who took 7 bong hits and thought that was a great idea?
Right? Like that needs to be nothing more than a 5-second discussion of like, hell no.
That's a great way to open the meeting up with a joke.
Yeah, like that's just a bad idea. No, we're not. It's a 5-second discussion. And how that even gets more than a 5-second discussion and actually became a reality and actually changed the schedule. And then now you're going back. Like, that should have been just a 5-second discussion. Same with this. Whoever brought this up in the boardroom, I don't know if it's Scott and Matt and Bill. I don't know who's all in that room. But, like, it should have been 5 seconds. It shouldn't have ever gotten to this point. Ever should not have leaked out to a prominent member of the college football media, prompting a response from the Oklahoma athletic director, then hours of silence from the university as they scramble to figure out what to do damage control. Like, you could have avoided all of that with a 5-second rule of just being like, if you say it out loud and there is sort of any doubt within 5 seconds about how ridiculous the thing that we're considering is here, then it's over. Like, as soon as that came up, as soon as it was, hey, how about on the 50-year anniversary of the game of the century, how about we pull out of that game to play Old Dominion at home? 1 second, 2 second. Hell no. That is stupid. We're not going to do that. We're going to get
it's a win
by our fans.
It's a boost for the local and state economy. It's a not embarrassing ball. Okay, I mean these are the guys that are hey, good idea. Whoever, this is why it's a good idea, and then immediately there should be broken glass. Table flips over. No, because
look, selling crack will boost your income. Doesn't mean it's a good idea.
It'll help you lose weight. It'll keep you from the dentist.
Taking up a methamphetamines habit will do wonders for your weight loss. Doesn't mean you should do it.
You have a bunch of new girlfriends.
Come on.
Just so we're clear here, this report came out. It was totally from Oklahoma, right? It just makes so much sense that Oklahoma would go.
Here's how this goes. I would think Kraynak and Elijah, you can call BS on it or not, but here's one of two avenues. Okay, you got the coaching fraternity and the AD fraternity, and if somebody in the MAC's getting a phone call, right, or if Old Dominion's getting a phone call, or who else was mentioned, right? There's some other team out there I'm forgetting. But, hey, do you guys want to come to Lincoln for a paycheck for $1.5 million? Let's just say that's the number. Sure, but don't you guys have a date with Oklahoma? Well, yeah, but we're maybe thinking about getting out of that. This is just a hypothetical discussion. Sure, let us get back to you on that. Hey, Joe, just got off the horn with Nebraska. They're thinking about playing us and paying us for September 18th. Are you guys wanting out of that game? What in the bloody hell are you talking about? We have festivities upon festivities planned for the game of the century. No. Huh? What? Let me call Bill. And that's how this starts. You have a conversation between the ADs, and it's laid out there. Hey, we might be thinking about this, or no, I have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah, well, your phone call's recorded. Oh, really? Listen, that's how it gets to that point. And eventually, if you're Oklahoma, you fire up some sort of communication to McMurphy, who's an OU grad, and say, hey, you might want to help us out here and put Nebraska on blast so they are shamed into keeping their commitment. And that's what this is, right? You are shamed into keeping your commitment because you kind of got caught trying to worm your way out of a game in the name of embarrassment. You're more embarrassed about the 3.5 hours versus the big picture of the next 6 months and beyond. Every time Nebraska, Oklahoma, it's brought up now, it's not two awesome rivals that shaped college football. It's two awesome rivals that shaped college football. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Nebraska wanted to tap out because they're afraid of getting beat down. That's what this has turned into now. So, yeah, this has got to be from Oklahoma to leverage Nebraska, in my opinion. And I'm not a huge Brett.
Well, whatever.
I'm not a huge Brett McMurphy guy. But
you said shame them.
Good on him.
Because you know what? There is shame.
There's still to even have this come up.
Yeah,
as an option.
Yeah, you should be ashamed if you're Nebraska. So you can only get shamed if you did something shameful, right?
Right.
And it's shameful. You should not. The fact that we're even discussing this is great. By the way, this is another thing about the perils of social media. So anybody else, anybody out there that just wasn't on Twitter or Facebook or whatever yesterday, just avoided all this stress for no reason, right? It's just sort of oh wait, Nebraska is playing Oklahoma. Oh, they're still playing Oklahoma.
Kraynak,
great.
It doesn't just because the game's still on doesn't mean it goes away. There's a bigger picture discussion problem to get into, where you have a team that has 9 starters back on defense, has a fourth-year starter at quarterback, has a pretty good offensive line, has talent in the running back room. All of that is traveling this year. All of that is supposed to still go up and compete against Iowa, still supposed to go up and compete against Northwestern. Still has a chance to touch gloves with Wisconsin. There's a season beyond Oklahoma. And either what you've recruited and developed is making you nervous, or you're worried right now about backlash and getting to 6-6 and getting a bowl game. That's the bigger, not just bigger, but that's another point of contention. And I go back to confidence, and I go back to what you said earlier, living what you preach. How much of that's going on? And how much of that is going on and being accepted and used by the kids going through the winter conditioning now, and how much of it is just white noise right now from your head coach? Everything he says and does or touches on, what are you believing from him?
Well, and bro, yeah, exactly. And look, year 4,
yeah.
I tweeted in jest. Okay, this was in jest in I think it was January 1st, 2018. And just retweeted it this week. But it was something along the lines of, wow, here, let me just find it here real quick. It was something here it is. NU Frost against OU Riley. This is January 1st, 2018. NU Frost versus OU Riley in 2021 will feature 5 million yards.
By somebody.
And this is on the day, of course, that Oklahoma was playing in a bowl game and putting up 5 million yards. And then as a joke, especially with Jebbia and/or Martinez as seniors, I like NU's chances, as long as McQuitty doesn't declare for the draft as a junior. Yeah, that was...
2 of the 3 people are no longer with the program.
But listen, but think about that, though. At that time, say January 1st, 2018, a couple weeks after the Frost hires announced, as you're watching Oklahoma on New Year's Day, it's 2021 was 4 years away, basically, right? what I was talking about wasn't that outlandish to imagine at that time. Right? It wasn't. It was, oh my God. You got Frost, who just got 50 points a game at UCF, undefeated, ridiculous numbers, led the conference, top 5 in the country offensively, crazy tempo. Here's Oklahoma doing it too. Wow, 2021 is going to be a showdown, right? Like it had everything was pointing that direction, and then here we are, 4 years later, and one side's trying to duck out.
How close did we get, how close did we really get to this?
Come on, man.
Is my question.
And dude, why can't we be it's also, here we are, year 4 of Frost and this whole thing, and it's a foregone conclusion that Oklahoma is going to just donkey stomp Nebraska. Foregone conclusion. Not saying I agree with it, but I've not heard anybody. I've not heard a single person been like, hey, roll the ball out there, see what happens. Everybody's just like, oh God, that's going to be a total ass kicking.
I still want to see it, right? I still want to see the black shirts. I still want to see where the offense is at. Go see where you're at. Guess what? Oklahoma, 50 years later, is still a measuring stick game. It still is, and it's okay to fail. It's okay to get blown out. It's okay to, the last time Nebraska was down there and the Sooners were at this level. Think about the Sam Bradford game, Bo's first year, okay? Mm-hmm. Where first play of the game's the old bubble screen pick 6, good night, 62-28, and it sucked, but you bounced back the year later, and Sue and company won 10-7, and that kicked off a Big 12 title game run against Texas. I mean, you can get better. This isn't a lasting branding of, well, Oklahoma might trounce you. Doesn't mean you can't get even with them and get better a year from that moment. And that's where this program's at. We know it's being rebuilt. We know it's still accumulating talent. We know it's still losing talent. Nico Cooper in the transfer portal. But you've got a head coach and assistants that do really good things, okay? I know it's been really choppy. I know it's been up and down. I know there's been tough, close losses. I know you're waiting for kind of a breakthrough. But these guys are capable. They're talented. They're good. They're smart, right? They've won before. And it's a long-haul process with Nebraska. But this isn't the answer. This is not the answer.
No.
To wave the white flag out of fear of embarrassment. And if I'm wrong, you got to tell me. But for the brain
why
trust,
are we buying it? Chris, nobody's buying it. Nobody's buying the
economic take. Yeah,
the economic stimulus reason.
No, and
and why is that? Why and are we Is it because we don't give them the benefit of the doubt because of things like bowing out of a bowl game?
Oh yeah,
right. And
or lots of talk
around here, and then he goes and transfers.
Mm-hmm. Or, you know what? You better get us.
Like say one thing, do another. Right.
You better
lost trust a little.
You better get us now, or I hope the Big Ten's got to adjust to us. And I mean, just too much talking, not enough action.
Well, I don't buy it because look around the grand landscape of college football. We haven't seen another team cancel an away game and go try to schedule an 8th home game to make more money. No other team has done that. And Nebraska being the athletic power that it is, like, I'm sure there's other schools in the country that are hurting much more than Nebraska financially. So why is Nebraska the school that's out here trying to go, oh, we need an 8th home game for economic reasons, our athletic department's hurting? No, you're scared of leaving Norman, Oklahoma with a 1-2 record. That's what it is, or even an 0-3 record. Because you're facing a tough opening game against Illinois. Let's be honest, they just kicked your ass at home this year, and then you're playing a very good Buffalo team. There's a very real chance you could be 1-1 after those 2 games, and then no one's giving Nebraska a chance to win this game. So then you're 1-2, leaving Norman, Oklahoma, with an uphill task of just making a bowl game.
Yeah, with Sparty and Ohio, it's brutal next year.
And you're up to see Mel Tucker.
Yeah, go play and get better, right? I mean, Nebraska fans aren't expecting New Year's Day next year. They just want to see. You've been here long enough to get to a bowl game. And I'm also not in the train like where if next year's miserable, like 3-9 miserable, where it's time to nuke everybody, because that's not gotten you where you need to go either. You kept hitting reset on the old Nintendo game the last 20 years. And it's continued to push you back and back and back. You just ride this thing out, however unpleasant the storm may be, till it gets sunny again. It's just kind of where you got to be.
And look, you again, going to the 5-second discussion rule. If this was Nebraska at Tulane,
yes,
no one would care.
Right.
No, right. Like everybody would be like, that's fine. Yeah. Oh, great. 8th home game at home. You know what I mean?
Kraynak, you can
all know
you
this
can
is
still
almost a guaranteed loss, and we still want it to happen.
Right, because of who it is.
What does that tell you?
Because of who it is.
Yes.
Because you love football and you love high-level games.
Yeah. If it was Nebraska-Tulane, we'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah, forget it. Like, just don't go there and let's get another home game in. Sweet. Good idea, Bill Moose. But this one, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
People are all over the Moose. And is this something he came up with, an assistant of his came up with? Because I like Bill, right? And the Moose is trying to get, a shovel in the ground for this football facility upgrade, right? And this can't help that.
No.
Okay? And the other part of that too is this the AD taking several bullets for his coach? I mean, I need more to this. And I need more than a statement 7 hours after the fact or 6 hours after the fact. I need the AD and the head coach to sit down and lay out what's going on beyond a statement. And I know we've just whined about all the talking that's been going on, but I need Mike Babcock across the table from him, asking him some difficult questions.
Yeah.
Legit.
I need a competent football program that isn't scared of playing whoever, wherever, and just goes and does that and competes in the 4th year of a regime.
It's just sad.
That's what I need.
It's just sad.
It's time.
All right. So we have exhausted this, and thank goodness for Oklahoma forcing Nebraska's hand. We'll get more into this with Brandon Vogel in an hour, less than an hour, about 30 minutes. Gary Sharp is with us. Our rewind coming up. I mean, this week started off all right. Ernest Hausmann committed to Nebraska. We talked with him. We also had a chance to get caught up with Coach Osborne and at his ceremony down in the Haymarket. So it's been a cool week. And then, we may be trading OU out for Macaroni State. Stay tuned. Yesterday was nuts. Kraynak, you got to be proud, man. You're Bell West all the way. You're a graduate. I've done a lot of games. I've been blessed to do a lot of games over the years. So many of those with you, with either Cox TV or on some radio. And I probably had the most fun I've ever had in my life last night calling a triple overtime game between Bellevue West and Creighton Prep. And what a finish, what a ball game, what an effort. And it's Millard North, Bell West for the title tonight for Boys State.
Yeah, again, I know it's some serious talent. There's at least 5 Division I prospects on that floor tonight, if not 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. And getting to watch Hepburn, who's going to be off to Oklahoma, Hunter Salas, who's off to wherever the hell he wants to go to. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to watch and the style is cool.
Yeah, it's great ball.
Because you hear a lot, Chris, about Nebraska needs a shot clock, and I agree they do.
Not with these two teams.
But if you're watching Bellevue West and Millard North, it's like it's an unnecessary requirement, because they act like there's one anyways. Yep. They're not stalling the ball for 2 minutes. That'll be an exciting one for sure.
It'll be good stuff. We'll have coverage here on ESPN Lincoln right before 7 o'clock. Myself and the coach, Jeff Smith, and we will hear from Ernest Hausmann, part of that the recruit for 2022. And that rewind portion coming up next on Hail Varsity Weekend. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Now back with Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery with Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak.
Let's bring in Nebraska's first recruit for 2021, standout linebacker with Columbus, Ernest Hausmann, with us. Ernest, thank you for the time today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Well, take us through this process for you when it comes to Nebraska, your commitment, and you're a guy that had so many offers, and I know Nebraska was your first offer, but as you put kind of an evaluation sheet together, kind of sifting through the pros and cons of every program, what was it that really stuck out about Nebraska that made it feel like not only was it time, but this was the best fit for you?
Yeah, so, with that spreadsheet, it was a combined questions from my parents' standpoint, and then as well as my own, and what I wanted. And, each question had a different, varied the importance of it. And the main question for me was the mission of the team. It was a really cool process to be able to hear from great programs and their missions, and then how they approach the missions. That was very key in my recruitment and what I looked at. And, with Nebraska's mission, it aligned with what I wanted. And then as well as all the other boxes they checked. And then with the timing of it all, I wanted to be respectful of other coaches in their programs. I wanted to have them focus on their rosters and fill in their spots. And I really wanted to commit to Nebraska and start building the 2022 class.
Ernest Hausmann's with us on Hail Varsity Radio, standout linebacker for Columbus High and the first recruit for 2022. You made that pretty evident with being respectful, and the recruiting process is wild, and it's more wild now with virtual visits versus in-person visits. And go back to the mission here. What is your mission? What do you want to do in college at the next level? What is your main goal?
My main goal is to be the best person I can be, with athletics, and then as well as off the field, and I know that you got to give a lot back to your community. And, with Nebraska, I felt like I could give a lot back to my community and make a big impact. I understand that football is more than just a game. And, it wasn't just a 4-year choice. It was my whole life choice. I realized that these next 4 or 5 years, they have a huge impact on your life. And I wanted to go to a place where I can make a big impact on people. And I thought Nebraska was it.
Ernest, tell me a little bit about the Columbus community. You've grown up there, and you've been able to thrive there. What's the community meant to you?
The community has meant a lot to me. It's a great community. Everyone's very friendly and neighborly. You can go over, ring someone's doorbell. They'd welcome you in. They're very supportive. They support us all on Friday night. It's a great. I wouldn't rather go up in any town. Especially with my transition coming into America. They're very welcoming and understanding of what I've been through. And, it was a very place that felt like home.
Ernest, Columbus isn't typically known as a recruiting hotbed, and you yourself, your recruitment didn't really blow up until the last few months, really. If you could take yourself back a year from today, did you see all this turning out with the amount of schools contacting you and offering you, and you now committing to Nebraska? Would you have ever expected this?
With my goal setting, it was obviously one of my goals to be, highly recruited. I trust the process through it all. I knew my time would come, and then as soon as coaches would get a hold of my film, that it would start picking up. So ultimately, I just trusted the process and kept working hard, and knew the time would come.
Ernest Hausmann's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, commit for Nebraska football 2022, linebacker from Columbus. Ernest, what was the interaction and reaction like when you told the coaches Friday that you were heading to Lincoln.
Yeah, it was actually, I kind of got the dates mixed up. I was so excited. It was actually Thursday night, actually, let them know. But it was awesome. It's something I'll never forget. Once I knew I wanted to commit to Nebraska, I wanted to let them know that away. I got a hold of Coach Dillon, and I said, can I get a Zoom call set up with the coaches? And, he said absolutely. And he got that set up in an hour, and I got my whole family on it, and it was just absolute joy. It was just amazing.
Who have you been able to connect with on the Nebraska staff between the defensive side of the ball, Coach Frost? I mean, it sounds like it was a pretty big effort by the Nebraska coaches to be in contact with you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big factors I felt like in this recruiting and was different from a lot of other schools, it felt like a family at Nebraska. I felt like the recruitment process was, very different from others. It wasn't just your position coach you're talking to. You were talking to other positions, offense, defense, everyone. It just felt very family-like, and how they approached it and went their way with it. You're getting a lot of phone calls, you're just reaching out. They actually genuinely care about you. And, I thought this place would be the best place for me.
Ernest, let's talk about your transition from corner to outside backer, and you plan to play inside backer your senior year. How's that gone for you? Obviously well defensively, but just as far as, gearing up and switching and being so versatile. Tell me about that ability to raise your game in different positions.
I really like challenges. I really love that side of the game of football. If I'm not challenging myself, I'm not doing something right. Switching to inside linebacker, I know it's going to be a very different part of the game I got to learn, but, I'm really excited. I'm doing stuff right now to get myself prepared for that, just physically and mentally as well. I know that there's a lot of different reads you have to do and just a lot of different technique stuff I have to learn, but I'm very encouraged and I'm ready to learn it.
Talking with the first commitment in the Huskers class of 2022, Ernest Hausmann. And Ernest, you're a guy who put on a lot of weight last year to transition to outside linebacker, now making the move to inside backer. So I just want to ask you, what parts of your game are you working on as you approach your senior season and ultimately as you approach stepping foot on Nebraska's campus?
For me, always get bigger, faster, stronger. It's always something I'm always working towards. But then as well as the technique side, I know there's a lot of different techniques I got to learn. So I'm going to be putting a lot of work into that this off season to get prepared for that. And as well as the mental side of the game, I'm getting prepared right now for college as well. I know that's in my future, so I'll be taking that mental part of the game really seriously now. And just getting prepared for that.
And Ernest, as you develop your game, are there any guys in the NFL or in college football that you look up to and you like to model your game after?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up a Levante Davis fan.
Good answer.
I was in a mall in Omaha, and this artist had paintings that he drew, and one was of Levante David. And I told my dad when I was younger that we should get that one. He did, and I had that in my room ever since.
Ernest, with Nebraska, what do they want you at weight-wise, and do they want you to kind of be a hybrid inside-out, or has that been discussed yet?
Yeah, they really like my versatility and my speed. They want me to the weight that I can still be able to move as efficiently as I am right now. They're not really worried about my weight putting on so much because, it's my frame and just the rate I'm gaining weight at. So, they want me around 230. It's something that I know I can get to. I just want to make sure I can keep my speed and versatility that I have right now.
When it comes to the state of Nebraska, there's a lot of in-state prospects, not only last year but this upcoming class. And tell me a little bit here. I got a couple of minutes left, Ernest, and it's been great to meet you and spend time with you. What do you want to do with this class as the first guy in with some of the other kids in-state?
I want to build this class, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to that. Talking to the coaches as well. I'm really going to go 100 miles an hour at this building class part of it. I'm really excited about it. I know that, you got to get them kids that love the game, but as well have a great character and just great people to be around. So I'm really excited about it.
Ernest, before we let you go here, we got about a minute left with you. I just want to ask, are there any guys on the Huskers roster currently that you're looking forward to learning under and playing with?
I haven't had the chance really yet to look at that. I'm still trying to digest what's going on right now. But I will be in contact with the coaches as well, just to get on the same page as well as them, so that we can get a really good 2022 class.
Ernest, last thought, second last thought, right? With early enrolling, is that something you're thinking about, or are you still up in the air on when you'll get to Lincoln?
Yeah, I've already made my decision that I'll be attending there mid-year. So I've already made that decision with my family, and we are getting everything needed to do that. So that's something I'm really looking forward to as well. Well,
Ernest, best to you. Thanks for the time. Congrats on your success and continued success. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Ernest Hausmann with us, standout for Columbus. Just one awesome linebacker and the first commit for 2022 for Nebraska football. And his highlight film, incredible. And there's a lot of guys you get to watch on Friday nights under the lights that kind of make you go, wow. But he was one that we've had a chance to cover. And huge get for Nebraska. Michigan in on him. Iowa in on him. Northwestern in on him. Sparty was there. And Nebraska the first. They got it done. They got the commitment. Awesome kid. Wonderful family. And best to him.
Early to rise with Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Here's Chris Schmidt and Mark Kraynak.
Winding down this first hour, weekend edition, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak, Elijah Herbal. Find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Mark Skurs, at Herbal Essence. And a reminder about your friends at West Blue Realty. Are you looking for that new home? Or are you trying to move out of what you're in currently? West Blue Realty, westbluerealty.com is where you go. You mentioned Hail Varsity. For a limited time, West Blue Realty can provide up to $1,000 on the closing of your next home purchase. Give Tom Luby a shout, 402-540-3768. Kelly Hofschneider, 402-202-2312. It pays to work with West Blue. 1120 K Street, Suite 200 is where you find them. We spent a lot of this first hour talking the Nebraska-Oklahoma debacle that still exists, even though the game is on, with the PR hit and the long-lasting remnants of this reputation now that Nebraska was trying to duck out of a big game against a Power 5 opponent, and it's a historical rival. As a Nebraska fan, everyone to a T, and that's not just hyperbole, Kraynak, there was no one that you bumped into that loves Nebraska football that was not incensed about this possibility. So there was there was a united front yesterday.
There was. And for as much talk as there is about a united front, about the administration and the fans and the coach all kind of rowing in the same direction, we're seeing fissures in that recently, and that this doesn't help. And I think you need to kind of get that back on track as best you can. You have a chance starting with the spring game, by the way. If they let fans in, which isn't Nebraska's decision ultimately, it's a health decision, right? Health officials' decision. But if you can let fans back in and everybody can kind of get back together, chance to start new. And that's sorely needed right now. And look, Chris, like 95% of the problems that we talk about with Nebraska, they're self-inflicted.
Yep, not just on the field.
Like, it's not stuff that happens to them, it's stuff they do to themselves. And this stretches back so far across regimes and administrations. It's just like, dude, come on. Like, it's self-inflicted stuff that is avoidable. It's totally avoidable. The Oklahoma debacle was avoidable.
Yeah, play the game
entirely, and it's just and now it's a debacle you have to deal with. Totally self-inflicted.
Mark Kraynak right there. We'll hear from Brandon Vogel in 10 minutes.
The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday morning show, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now, roll tide.
And Mark Kraynak.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Welcome to it, Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio Weekend, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak, Elijah Herbal.
It's been such a disorienting couple of days, Chris.
It's been nuts. It's been great, though.
I don't even know who you are
last
anymore.
Night, triple overtime. High school basketball state championship Saturday today. Got a chance to talk to Nebraska's recruit this week, see Coach Osborne. And now we end it with Brandon Vogel. Excited to say hi to Vogues at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Managing editor, HailVarsity.com and magazine. His book, Dream Like a Champion with John Cook. Vogues, in your sit down with John Cook and the work you did on a incredible book, is there a chapter on opting out of top 5 opponents?
No. There's a lot of talk about structuring non-conference schedules to make sure you're ready to go through a rugged Big Ten. I can point you to those sections if you'd like.
But there was no opting out of potentially embarrassing loss on said schedule.
No, strangely, that didn't come up. It looked like Nebraska volleyball was on the brink of losing last night, but they found a way to stick in and came away with a win against undefeated Ohio State. So you just got to keep plugging away.
That's the best way to say it. Vogues, take us through how you were able to observe, reflect, and your takeaway from the 6.5. I feel like this is the Nebraska version of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Except it's football and it wasn't nuclear war in the early 60s. But how do you ballpark this yesterday? What are your thoughts and feelings here of the McMurphy tweet, the silence from Nebraska, and the insinuation that, listen, Nebraska just wanted to wave the white flag with this thing?
It just didn't have to happen. If in 2006, if Bill Callahan had been able to get out of that USC game, that team probably goes undefeated, wins the Big 12. He's probably still the head coach. Nebraska's still in the Big 12. And there's no reason to avoid Oklahoma because you play them every couple of years. No, I mean, it's just hard to, follow the logic of this. I mean, everyone understands, hey, getting another home game would be nice. But with the way the schedule is structured, you don't have that option because the only option was to replace a trip to Oklahoma, which is not a viable option. So it was just bizarre. Honestly, on paper, I can look at a lot of reasons that this current Nebraska era is not quite as far behind as it may seem based solely on the record. Yesterday really shook my confidence in that because while all those things are still there, on paper, this feels like a mess to even entertain this idea.
Brandon, thank you. That is exactly right. We were talking in the opening segment today about it's sort of like the 5-second rule. Like if you say it out loud, it shouldn't take more than 3 to 5 seconds to determine that that's a horrible idea. Let's move on. That's not happening. But it's sort of like Black Friday, in the boardroom with Eichhorst and whoever else was in that room making that decision however many years ago. Like when you say, should we get out of Nebraska versus Iowa, only game on national television, day after Thanksgiving, tradition for Nebraska since the mid-90s of playing on that. No, you should not. Move on. Next. End of discussion. This is one of those things too, right?
Yeah, I mean, petitioning the NCAA for a 13th game, which honestly wouldn't be a bad idea because everybody's in this boat. I mean, you worry about wear and tear, of course, but a lot of athletic departments, if you could set up, let everybody play an extra game and split the revenue 50-50. You got to have one home team, of course, but instead of the traditional payouts, split it. Give everybody a little bit of help. I mean, that's the thing. After the year that everyone has been to on multiple fronts, which includes sports and college sports, everyone gets it. Everyone understands that, yeah, there's a little bit of everybody's got to do what's best for them, but you just, not this opponent, not this game. I mean, the uproar over losing Black Friday against Iowa at a time when, you know, a lot of people were still reticent to even acknowledge Iowa as a rival. Well, here's the one that Nebraska has traditionally had. And yeah, it's, you know, gone into hibernation because they're not in the same conference anymore, which is too bad. But Oklahoma, Nebraska just holds a special mystique. And that's why, you know, on a day where it's really the only news in college football, you saw everybody jumping in on it.
Brandon Vogel with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Brandon, I just want to ask an opinion question of you. With this news coming out yesterday, where do you think it came from? Was this a football team thing? Was this an athletic director thing? I mean, it just doesn't seem to make much sense to me whenever you know what Nebraska fans care about and how much this game was important to them. So where do you think it came from?
I mean, so there's probably two options there. One, McMurphy heard it from a team that was contacted by Nebraska. That's possible. But in terms of who would have the most incentive to drop a little anonymous note to a very well-known and respected national college football reporter, is Oklahoma, you know, and it's not just home game revenue, which, you know, is for the athletic department, but the city of Norman, you know, you're talking about who knows how many, 15, 20,000 Nebraska fans coming down there, staying in hotels, eating at restaurants. Like, the financial incentive for Oklahoma to keep this game is huge. You don't replace that by, you know, Nebraska saying, sorry, not sorry, we're out, and you schedule Western Illinois. So I don't know, but just logically, I would be willing to guess this was probably Oklahoma saying, hey, we have a card here to play, and they played it. And I don't blame them at all for that.
Vogues, with the mentality piece here, and you can go through the statistics. We can talk stop rate. We can talk the amount of yards Nebraska piles up and the empty calories with yards versus points. We can get into experience and system. We can get into schematics, all of that. But when it comes to the psychological part of things, to me, that's what I'm carrying with me forward here. This is a loud statement about just where the confidence level is. It feels like if you're trying to tap out of this game, you can spin it financially and economically, and that's real. But this is running and hiding, and I can't for the life of me, if I'm a player, who am I playing for, man? I mean, what's going on here? I mean, that's like, that reverberates, and I don't know if that can be forgiven or forgotten moving forward here if you're trying to tap out of this ball game, this matchup.
It's really tough, and you know, as the silence continued yesterday, I mean, that news came out
8 in the morning,
24 hours ago, almost. And as the silence went on, you're like, well, what's Nebraska going to do? Because they're not saying something, does that mean they're just going to go ahead and, like, the big unanswered question here, and, you know, something we're trying to track down, and I'm sure a lot of others are, is, like, how serious were these discussions? Was it just an idea? Like, it potentially got far enough along to be floated to Oklahoma and some potential opponents. Like, I don't think Nebraska was necessarily set on doing it, and was just waiting for everything to line up. But I don't know. So that's a big question here. And you're right. Like, there's a lot of stats. I spend a lot of time looking at those. I mean, Nebraska over the last 3 years has won as many plays. It's won more plays than Minnesota has. But look at the records of those two for coaching tenures that started 1 year apart. So you can look at things like that, and I've had previously and say, hey, it's, you know, there's something here. Some things are working, and it sort of backs up a lot of the talk, you know, particularly from the head coach of like, hey, things are close. I know it doesn't look like it. Things are close. Things are close. I wrote about it in December for the December issue of the magazine. Like, I largely buy that stuff. And now, like, none of, those things are all still true, but it's just harder. It seems like the problems around it, or the tension around it, however you want to term it, that have prevented Nebraska from having a winning percentage like Minnesota or Texas or Baylor, because it's won more plays than all of those teams too over that span. They seem a lot bigger and more severe now to me, I guess is the best way to put it.
And the common thread through all of it, Brandon, if you're to boil it down, and I'm just curious, like, how do you reverse this? But it's self-inflicted harm, right? Like, I tweeted yesterday, kind of in jest, but like, Nebraska needs therapy because 95% of its issues are self-inflicted, and it seems like you have numbers to back that up, right? Like, you're telling me that they win more of their plays, like they're successful on more of their plays than their opponent is, but they still figure out a way to lose because of self-inflicted crap.
Yes, they have been better than that over the last 2 years than Oklahoma State, than Miami. Like, they're not Alabama, Clemson. Nobody's saying that, but they're virtually the same. They've won the same amount of plays as Iowa has over the last 3 years, and look at the difference in records.
Yeah, and publicly, sort of like in the PR realm, they just wade right into issues, right? Like, this Oklahoma thing didn't have to happen. Neither did neither did the opting out of the bowl game, and neither did, no doubt in my mind, Luke's the future around here comments, and then he like, it's just, get out of your own way. I just don't even know what else to say anymore. Do you think we've just reached the point here in year 4 where it's just like, dude, you just have to win now? Because there's just been too much talk, too many blunders, too much say one thing, do another, that people are just tired of it.
Yeah, I think it does up the pressure a little bit. I didn't personally look at this year 4 as a make or break year, and I don't think I still do. But it feels closer to that because, this game's on now, and it's going to. Nebraska's going to take it on the chin from Twitter people making jokes. That happened instantly. It's going to continue through the offseason. It's going to pick up steam the week of that game in a really big way. And your only way out at this point is to go and play well. You just gotta show up and do it. Because like the Twitter mob is going to have its pitchforks and torches at the ready, just waiting for Oklahoma to jump out 21-7 in that game, and you did that to yourself. Like, if you don't explore this, or if you explore it and this news doesn't get out. Okay, nobody's expecting, I don't think, Nebraska to go in there and I think we got a great shot to beat Oklahoma. We don't know; it's so far out at this point. But Oklahoma, per SP Plus initial rankings, would be about a 17-point favorite in that game. Now it feels like if that line was open and taking public money, it's probably up over 24, 25 points because you just gave Oklahoma an incredible incentive to leave Spencer Rattler in that game as long as possible and run it up.
You tried to hose us with a home game. We're going to leave our quarterback phenom in for an extra quarter, and we're going to keep throwing deep, Vogues.
Although,
go ahead.
I was going to say, have you guys seen that the team's been lifting weights?
Jeez, yeah, I know. I saw the box jump this morning by Omar. It's awesome. That's great. He's jumping. I don't know. What are we talking? 4 feet hurdles.
Here's the thing. By the way, look, we're everybody's a little kind of salty right now, but like, I don't have any doubt that they're doing the right things in the weight room. I have not doubted that for a second. I mean, really, like, the team looks like they're in so much better shape. The amount of weight they're moving around that's fantastic. And that's like 1/20th of what you got to do to win football games.
I got a better question. I mean, can we get Foreman and Peter to give a code red to whoever the hell came up with this?
I'm going to guess they weren't consulted.
No, I know, but they can sure react.
They should have been consulted.
Yeah, I mean, Peter and Foreman need to hand out a code red, Colonel Jessup style, to whoever came up with this idea about thinking about dropping the game. Is that too much to ask on a Saturday?
That might be an addendum or a fail-safe to Mark's 5-minute rule of just call Jay and say, "Hey Jay, we're thinking about dropping Oklahoma. What do you think about that?" And just and see how that goes.
Who said it?
Yeah, it's like there are still reasons to. A big picture worry for me with this is, none of the players asked for this. They were just along for the ride. I'm sure if you asked them, they'd be like, "Yeah, we're super excited to go play in one of the historic venues in college football and take our shot." If you polled the majority of Nebraska fans and said, "Hey, would you like to swap out the Oklahoma game to have an extra home game?" I'm guessing that would be almost unanimously voted down. And that's the part that worries me, is that there are so many stakeholders in Nebraska football who had no say in this whatsoever. And that's a problem. I do fear that it erodes some trust. Time will help. By the time we get to, spring football, the spring game, like everything passes. But this has the potential to just kind of linger there as an undercurrent for quite a while.
This is a fart in the car.
Nice clam bake reference. Okay.
Mark, I don't want to jump ahead of you, but I want to ask Brandon, do you think that somebody's got to step forward from the Husker Athletic Department and answer some tough questions? It feels like it's been a while since somebody's really sat down and had a tough interview and answered some tough questions. But is this the Kickstarter to getting that going? Because, I don't think Frost has had, one interview since the season ended. Moose has had one sit-down with Mitch Sherman. It just feels like nobody's been answering the tough questions.
Yeah, Moose tends to be pretty available. When Derek Peterson has had one-on-one interviews with him a handful of times, and I'll give them credit. Bill Moose is pretty accessible for those things. Football has continued to draw inward, I feel. I think we will see that again this spring. Last year it was an opportunity to just kind of quietly do your work because, for a long time, players weren't even on campus, and when they were, safety concerns. And before any of this happened, I worried that might become more of the norm just because everybody had gotten by with less access. The silence yesterday shows, I think the best thing Nebraska could do is come out and say, Monday, hey, Bill Moose and Scott Frost are here to tell you their perception. They're going to tell you how far these things got and just be open with it and kind of put it to bed a little bit. I don't think they will. In fact, I fear that this kind of raises the wall a little bit around the football program, which is an understandable response, but I fear that if that happens, it's the wrong response.
Vogues, real quick, your takeaway with Nebraska volleyball and kind of their momentum right now.
Yeah, last night was the good and the bad. They're still kind of finding their way to come out and be on full time from the get-go. That said, you also got to see, when they got rattled a little bit, they were able to win 3 straight matches and take 3 straight games and take that match. So still impressive. We know what the expectations are annually for Nebraska volleyball, and we know that this group so far looks like they're right there. They are a Final Four national championship caliber team. They got to get a little bit more consistent, I think. You get into the tournament and you just one of those you don't want to be falling down 0-2. I think everybody knows that, but they're just not quite as totally consistent. But when they turn it on, they show you their ceiling is still super, super high.
Vogues, thanks for your time on this today. Good to get caught up with you, and We'll check in. These guys will check in next Saturday with you. I will be losing a golf ball, but appreciate you, man. Good insight on the Nebraska-Oklahoma fiasco. Appreciate you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, Brandon Vogel, managing editor, HailVarsity.com, and magazine at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Quick time out. The Iron Horse, Gary Sharp, is next. It's Hail Varsity Weekend. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Glad to have you back.
Yes, sir. You heard me right.
Here are the guys, Schmidt and Kraynak.
Well, Hector, here's the game plan. You're going to bring us 2 absolute martinis. You know how I like them, straight up. And then precisely 7 1/2 minutes after that, you're going to bring us 2 more. Then 2 more after that every 5 minutes until one of us passes out. Excellent strategy, sir.
Back with your weekend edition, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Championship Saturday. We'll have Bell West, Millard North tonight at 7. Be on the call with Coach Jeff Smith. It was wonderful to see the Iron Horse yesterday at PBA, Gary Sharp. Sharpie, how good was that triple overtime thriller, man? You've seen a lot of games. Where's it rank?
Yeah, it was one of the all-time greats. You had 2 extremely well-coached teams, 2 teams that know each other so well, and high-level talent on both Bellevue West and Prep side. It was a classic. It's great that there were 6,100 people in there and taking every available seat and the atmosphere that it was. But just imagine if you could pack the place. You'd have the fire marshal show up. It was so popular. But kudos to both. It was a great game. It was a great showcase of where Nebraska high school basketball has gone. And it should be round 2 tonight. There might be a tension convention with Millard North after what happened last year. But Bellevue West, they're at both of those teams last night. And the top 3 teams in the state are pretty clear. But those 2 teams last night, they're tough. I mean, they're going to be a tough out for Millard North just because. And people say, well, they didn't get home until after midnight. Well, look, they're kids. Okay, they'll be okay. It's probably their last game for some of them. They'll be fired up tonight. But it'll be another great showcase for high school basketball in the state of Nebraska, guys.
Well, and how about the 2 coaches too? By the way, I mean, how long are those guys? What do they have combined? 50 years? Woodard and Cannon.
Yeah, and then Doug with Bell West trying to win another state title. He continues to get the most out of his team, and that program has grown. And then, Tim Cannon's had an incredible coaching career of high school basketball in the Omaha area. And the one thing that's missing, all of the victories, all the players that he has sent on to the next level, no state championship. And I know that sticks with him after what happened last year. You're up 14, and Bellevue West goes on a 16-love run, and they win the state title, and they take it away from you. They played with a little chip on their shoulder of late because people have been pegging Bell West to win back-to-back state titles. So he's found the right buttons to push with his team. They're kind of a light switch team, guys, with Millard North. When they want to play, they're scary, but sometimes they'll look like they're disinterested. I don't think so tonight. I think we'll get 32 minutes of some interesting basketball. But you're right; those are 2 legends. And you know what? And I'll throw Josh Lutke in there as well. He's had a great success. He's a state championship coach. And also consider, guys, he lost his father on Thursday morning and didn't want to tell anybody. He did not want it to get out. Coach Woodard, who's got a great relationship with Josh, they spent a lot of time together in the summer with summer basketball. He mentioned it, and I think everybody had Josh's and his family's thoughts and prayers last night as he was coaching with a heavy heart. And then you go through that kind of a game. That was a tough one, but what a great showcase.
Gary Sharp's with us, the Iron Horse, Hail Varsity Radio. Sharpie, how did you absorb yesterday with the Nebraska-Oklahoma topic of discussion, the McMurphy report, the silence from Nebraska, and then finally the statement from Nebraska? And how do you put your arms around it?
Well, there's no other way to spin it, guys, than it was a bad day for the PR machine of Nebraska athletics. That was not a good look at all. It's a case where Brett McMurphy did his job. I think Oklahoma probably got a hold of Brett McMurphy or somebody and said, hey, this is what's possibly happening to this game. And Brett does his work, and he gets the details, and he tweets that out, and Nebraska probably went, uh-oh, this wasn't supposed to get out. Somebody dined us out. And you saw what happened afterwards. Oklahoma quickly responded. Nebraska had silence. It got all the way up the flagpole. Ronnie Green's office is getting calls. The Board of Regents are getting calls. People are calling Bill Moose's office that are just regular fans because that game was created for the fans, guys. Tom Osborne's last thing out the door was, as an athletic director, was let's do this on the 50th anniversary of the game of the century. Let's do 2 separate home and homes with Oklahoma for the fans because that's what the fans want. And fans were not happy yesterday, and it's another thing, guys, where you probably at the end of the day, after Nebraska put out their statement, which was the right thing to do, you probably said, it's not a surprise this continues to happen. It's just bad PR, and it's another gut punch, and it's another, laughing stock of college athletics for a good 6-7 hours.
Gary Sharp is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. And here's the other, Gary, it just seems like the common theme, and I just want to get your commentary on this. It's less of a question and more of just observation. Would love to hear your reaction. 95% of what Nebraska deals with is self-inflicted. Whether it's PR, whether it's on the field, how the hell do they get out of that ridiculous cycle? And do you agree with that statement?
I do, and it's not just recent. It's been for a while that it's more reactive than proactive, and as hard as they try and as many as talented people that are in the athletic department to create good vibes, it's one thing like yesterday that erases a lot of those good vibes. How do they get out of it? Win. Is that the easiest thing to say? Is if you win in your major men's sports, that you can have flubs along the way, and they're not as noticeable as flubbing when you've won 12 football games in 3 years?
No, it's a major situation, and they're trying to win on the field. They're accumulating talent. They're trying to develop. But Kraynak, Sharpie and Kraynak, the answer isn't to opt out of a top 5 showdown. Yeah. I know they're not ready to compete at that level. At least we don't think so right now. But
here's guys, this is how this could have been handled better. I understand Nebraska's financials, and I truly believe that if you look at this schedule, it's a really kind of an odd schedule because of the front end and the back end. The back end, you play 6 of your last 8 games at home. On the front end, when they moved the game from Dublin, Ireland, and this is when I think this idea started, because you were looking at true road games. When they moved the game back to campus in Champaign, I think that's when this process started of going, man, we've got 3 true road games in our first 4. This is a weird schedule. Can we break this up? Okay, if that's the case, I understand. But what you need to happen is, first of all, you can't allow this to be leaked out. If you're trying to go behind something, you get Oklahoma on board. Wouldn't we have been a lot better yesterday if it comes to fruition that Nebraska needs to add an 8th home game, but Oklahoma is on board, and all they've done is they're still going to play next year, and then Nebraska will go to Norman like in 27, but that 29-30 is still on the books. Mm-hmm. If that would have happened, we would have been okay. Okay, Oklahoma's fine with it. But it just looked like Nebraska was trying to move around Oklahoma, and then they were going to get this 8th game, and then they were just going to announce it out of the blue, and there would have been extreme outrage that this got out and they had to backtrack, and now they're sticking with the game, which at the end of the day is the right thing to do. But it's just a rocky way to get there. And how many times have we said that, going back to Mark's question earlier?
Yeah, Gary Sharp is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. So, look, the game is on. Nebraska's schedule is what it is. It looks, strength of schedule-wise, has to be top 5 most difficult.
I think so.
How much of that? So, where do you weigh in on that? When you look at Nebraska needs wins, obviously, for Moose and front. Like, they need wins. They need to get wins. This does not look like a sure win. How do you balance sort of the competitive spirit versus stark reality of needing W's and needing to get to a bowl game? And where do you think, how much do you think that weighed on this decision?
I think a little bit, but do you guys think that this was separate, not together? Hey, we may have to explore an 8th game. We'll get back to you. They tell that to the football side. CFO side goes and pursues a football game to make some money. And then you go, okay. Because how do you explain this to your your players who come to Nebraska to play big games. Mm-hmm. And also when you think you're close and that this year could be the breakthrough, I think it's a golden opportunity for Nebraska. They're going to be double-figure underdogs, okay? They're going to face a guy who might be the number one pick in the 2022 draft in Spencer Rattler. It is Oklahoma, top 5 team. But what an opportunity for Nebraska to go down there and prove to people that the program is ready to turn the corner. You got guys in that room that love to compete. That would be tough to tell them, guys, we're going to compete on September 18th against Old Dominion. And some guys are going to go, the band? And they're going to have to say, no, the Monarchs, the football team. It just, that was, I don't know, I'm still trying, the morning after, guys, I'm still trying to figure out how we got to that point yesterday. For 6 to 7 hours, this state was ablaze, and this fan base, once again, was taking a gut punch just completely out of the blue.
Yeah. And by the way, I look at Oklahoma's schedule. They have not I'm intrigued by we've seen what the Big 12 has kind of devolved into. And it's sort of a defense optional league, right? Save for Iowa State and Kansas State, right? Who are right there, and they're a thorn in the Big 12 kind of powers side. Oklahoma hasn't played a Big Ten team in a long time. I went back 4 years, didn't see one. Nebraska returns a lot of its defensive line, which is kind of where the Big Ten makes its hay, is offensive. Look, I think Oklahoma is going to be a double-digit favorite. I think they'll win by double digits, but I don't think it'll be that easy for their offense. I don't think they're accustomed to the sort of style that they're going to see against Nebraska.
I think the last time, Mark, they played a Big Ten team was when they had the home-and-home with Ohio State. The Baker Mayfield trying to plant the flag. And prior to that, Ohio State went down to Norman and just routed the Sooners. The league is getting better defensively. Oklahoma at the tail end of last year was much better defensively. Alex Grinch finally found the right pieces. So they're trying, that's the thing. That's the last thing to fix for OU before they can win playoff games. I think they're lethal. I think this is a heck of a matchup for anybody. But you look at Oklahoma, and maybe that offense is needs a little bit of a learning curve, but they do have an influx of nice portal talent. They've got a couple of games before Nebraska plays them, and that's the thing. If I'm OU, that's why I was upset, because OU structured their schedule with the Nebraska home game. You don't get. You get a conference where you play a round robin, but remember, one of your home games every year is essentially a neutral site game at the Cotton Bowl with Texas. Mm-hmm. And their schedule, they don't have a lot of home games. So, if you lose a home game, because then the thought was, okay, why don't you just flip? Oklahoma comes to Lincoln this year, Nebraska goes to Norman next year. Well, that would really mess up Oklahoma's schedule. Oklahoma's legit. I think this will be one of, if not the best Lincoln Riley team that he's had. You look at who they got at running back from Tennessee. They've gotten some really good talent on defense. I think the dismissal or the separation from Buki will help their defensive backs as well. They're a national championship team. But again, what a great opportunity for Nebraska. The narrative is not going to be there this offseason. It's going to be really quiet. They're probably going to be fifth in the West. What an opportunity to go to Norman and prove yourself and show that you're making progress and you're headed in the right direction.
Gary, with the talent of this Oklahoma team in mind, do you buy the statement that was released by Bill Moose yesterday saying this was a financial deal and it wasn't about what was going to happen on the field? Or do you think Nebraska was trying to avoid getting a beat down from Oklahoma?
Well, I think the realistic part, you look at it and you go, if we lose that game and it gets sideways, man, what does that do for the rest of the season? That's a legit concern. But I do believe that financials, Nebraska's looking at a hole, and they're trying to get that 8th home game. Here's the other thing that I wondered yesterday, guys, and I don't know if you agree with me or not. Part of when I'm hearing what Nebraska might be doing, and I'm thinking purely financials, is they have gotten word from the Big Ten that they're not going to be able to have a full stadium throughout the year. And so they're trying to plan ahead, if that is the scenario that is presented in the middle of the summer by the Big Ten, that you can't have 90K in Lincoln, which is another financial hole if you can only have 60K or whatever, that they were looking at that. I just this is one of those things when you go down this road, I think you use a private third party so it can't be traced back to you. Or you're up front with everybody that is involved, because there were no MAC teams that had spots available on the 18th. Old Dominion has a game scheduled on the 18th. Granted, money talks, you can move those games. But then remember, if you do this to OU, you would have probably had to do the buyout, which is very small. But I would think help find Oklahoma a team to play on the 18th as well.
Yeah, I mean, it gets pretty layered, doesn't it, with just trying to move this.
But thankfully, at the end of the day, Nebraska, the fans are still going to get what we want. It's going to be Nebraska-Oklahoma. It's going to be really cool. They're doing a lot of cool events around the game with former players from that game, former coaches that have been involved in the rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
So we get that game. It's there. But what if Brett McMurphy had not tweeted yesterday, and instead at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, you get a release that says Nebraska is playing Old Dominion on September 18th?
Place would still be on fire. I mean, that's...
And I got this on my show, guys, yesterday. People were livid. I mean, there's basketball going on for 4 hours. We talk about this on the air. If that would have been the case, I think it would have been awful tough for people to come into the stadium on the 18th to watch Old Dominion. I mean, that might have been the day that the sellout streak was in major jeopardy.
No, big time, absolutely. And I still think as you move forward, fans, you still get what you want. You're making the roadie down to Norman, but you're ticked about it. There's a little bit a shine off of it, and it was already going to be a tough ball game. Anyway, I'm just saying from the hearts and minds standpoint, if you're not just a Nebraska football fan, but if you're in those weight training sessions, if you're a player, I mean, I need to hear from my head coach as to why the hell this was even a thought.
This is, and it goes back to optics. Well, what do the optics look like? The optics look bad. Mark, how would you like to be the media person that the first time you have availability with Scott Frost, you have to ask him, hey, why are you guys not playing the Oklahoma game? Do you think he'd really want to answer that?
No.
He needs to answer why it was considered to not play it. I mean, it's just... Well,
so we're doing all these scenarios. Again, at the end of the day, Nebraska did the right thing, but why did we have to get to this point? Is if you looked at it, they did the right thing. They got to the right decision. But was there any part that also you guys thought, what's going on in the athletic department in this scenario is different from football, and they're not on the same page?
We've seen quite a bit of that, haven't we? Because that was the big talk when Frost came in. Is that, hey, everybody's going in the same direction now. President, AD, coach, fans, all united. You're seeing major signs of that not being the case, and it's we're idiots if we see that otherwise.
Because you guys saw and I thought it was funny, the football account tweet that had the calendar, that had the game still on it, and it had a text message that said, "You're really backing out of the Oklahoma game."
Ugh.
So it was kind of a funny tweet, but it disappeared pretty quick after it was tweeted out.
That was interesting. I mean, that thing was on Twitter for 2 seconds and then gone.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. At the end of the day, Nebraska-Oklahoma are still playing, guys. We can all still go to Norman to have a great time, and they're looking forward to having a full stadium down in Norman and all of what's going to go into that weekend to celebrate the 50th anniversary of one of the greatest games in college football. It's just a pattern of finally got to the right thing, but man, why did it have to be so choppy to get to that point with a fan base that is taking so many gut punches?
Sharpie, a couple minutes here before we got to say goodbye. Husker baseball doing their thing on the hill and with the power alley again, and what a start for Coach Bolt and his crew.
You know what? They lost against Purdue, and they could have easily won the season opener last Friday. And you saw that they relied on pitching. And Cade Povich, a good bounce back yesterday to strike out 12. Max Anderson, a freshman from Millard West. Thank you to Rob Childress for rosters being backed up, and so that Max had to stay close to home. And he's crushing the baseball. They again, 1 through 9, they got a really good lineup. They are a tough out. And if they continue to get good pitching, starters, middle relievers, closers, to make up for the loss of Gomez, I mean, this is a team that's really, really good. This is a team that definitely shouldn't have been out of the top 6 in the Big Ten preseason poll.
And they haven't committed an error in 4 games. You know. Is this a contender? Is this a Big Ten contender? Because a lot of folks didn't think they were.
I think so and I thought that. You look at 1 through 9 in the lineup. They got guys that are contact hitters. They got guys with speed. They're hitting a little bit more home runs. They got some gap power. I mean, they've constructed a really good lineup. It's always been what's going to happen with the starting pitching, and then once they're done, bullpen. I think Will has really constructed this roster well. They've got depth. And they've got some good frontline starters. So if you're playing 4-game series in the conference, boy, what an advantage to win on your first 2 and then try and split in those last 2 or sweep. But the whole part of it is winning series. This is a really good team, and gosh, it would be a shame if the Big Ten doesn't allow Nebraska to work with the Lincoln Health officials to have some type of fans in Haymarket Park, because the way this team plays, you guys know this, they're exciting to watch. People are embracing this team.
Well, it is awesome to see Husker baseball off to such a great start, and let's pray that the Big Ten allows some sort of fandom.
Well, and it's good to see Nebraska baseball off to a good start because, guys, when we roll this over and we get through spring football, which begins at the end of the month, and we go into the offseason, then we're going to go into the 21-22 athletic calendar, which is, concerning the 2 main men's sports, the most important year ever in Nebraska athletics because of those 2 that have to win, that have to turn the corner. You remember, you're supposed to start churning dirt and building a facility that raises hope. You've also got multimedia rights that are brought in-house, so you got to go out and sell the brand. You've got name, image, likeness hanging over college athletics. I mean, I think that next year, when we start back up in the fall, is the most important year for Nebraska athletics to get things turned around, get hope, get people excited, and then move things forward instead of being stuck where they are right now. Because I don't know how much longer this whole fan base can go where apathy doesn't really set in. Not just football, men's basketball, but towards the athletic department.
Gary Sharp. Sharpie, we'll see you down at PBA tonight, bud. Thanks for the time today.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Yeah, look,
Gary Sharp with us.
Chris, there's always pressure. Always pressure. But I think he's right.
What he just laid out is massive pressure. Diamond building pressure.
Yeah, so how does Nebraska respond to that? How do you coach through that? How does that affect your decisions all across the board, in game, out of game? Because you're right, it's ramping up this year.
Well,
right? There's no question about it.
I know if I'm just kind of staring at the coaches down there at Nebraska, I know there's a few I'm in on right now that I think can handle pressure, and there's some that no, they can't.
Let's see, right?
We'll be back Monday for Hail Varsity. Have a good weekend. Kraynak, be good, bud.